Welcome to How to Win the Lottery, 1990s module, 1998, The Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver. I'm Joey Lewandowski.
It's your boy Shreds.
Shreds, welcome back. We spent the summer in Zaire, formerly the Congo.
Oh, sure.
You read this book so long ago, you didn't even remember, like, that's what we were talking about.
Even and the Belgian Congo.
Yeah. There's a lot of history in this book that I don't know anything about. You don't need to.
No.
But there's a lot of context here that I don't have.
Well, so a thing that I thought was interesting and that I still think is one of the more interesting things to me is that the 1960s, the book takes place in the 1960s, and we're very, very, like, we hear about 1960s America all the time, and and specifically the political upheaval of 1960s America with the assassination of Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers, Fred Hampton, Bobby Kennedy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Riots on the streets, protesting in Vietnam, blah, blah, blah. But it's interesting to go to a completely different part of the world and then go, oh, it's actually like that kind of upheaval seemed to be universal. Like there seemed to be something in the 1960s that flexed its muscles.
There's also something universal where it's like the same things they're dealing with then are still what we're dealing with today, and people with power and people without power. And
right. It's possible the 60s, because the 60s were an era of mass media and maybe the first era of real mass media, right? It's the time that Vietnam ended up on television. Previous wars had not been fought on television, and information was disseminated much more quickly globally. It's possible that the 1960s were like a mass consciousness event, and that resulted in upheaval in a lot of places, and the rise of Marxism, especially among students and stuff. And you get that in Congo as well.
And then also on the other flip side, it's just like, oh, like the Rumble in the Jungle. Like, what if, from the other perspective, it fucked over an entire country for forever?
Yeah. Right.
So before we get there, though, 1998 facts. We got one more year, which we've already recorded the episode. So this is our last, as we're recording, last batch of 90s facts. You, the listener, will have 1999 facts with the From Hell episode in 2 weeks. But here we go. 1998 facts. Number one movie at the box office. It's the same as 1997 because it just dominated the year. Titanic.
Wow.
Came out at the end of 97, won 11 Oscars. Other major films that year: Saving Private Ryan.
Sure.
Armageddon. Truman Show. There's Something About Mary. Bug's Life. Mulan. Your Girl Madonna released Ray of Light, reinventing her sound with electronic influences.
I like Ray of Light. I put that on the list and you guys poo-pooed it really hard.
Yeah, we did not.
I like that song. I think it's great.
Seinfeld aired its final episode in May of 1998, watched by nearly 76 million people.
Do not care.
Sex and the City premiered, redefining adult cable television.
Fine. Never watched it.
TRL launched.
Okay.
You watch TRL or are you too old for TRL?
No, I remember TRL.
Google founded.
Okay.
Bill Clinton impeached.
That was 98?
Apparently he was impeached.
That was 99.
Maybe the trial was in 99. I don't know, but I think the impeachment was 98. Here's some facts about Mississippi where they were in very briefly before they go to Congo.
Right.
Hurricane George struck the Mississippi Gulf Coast in September.
Pretentious to put an S on the end of that.
Yeah. I mean, they run out of names, right? Like, you gotta...
I guess.
Mississippi remained under Governor Kirk Fordice, a polarizing figure known for conservative policies. And Mississippi State University won the SEC football title in 1998, SEC West title in 98, a huge sports moment for the state. And then they also have some facts about the Congo, primarily the Democratic Republic of the Congo, formerly Zaire. In August of 98, so the year that this book comes out, the Second Congo War erupted, often called Africa's World War.
Yeah.
Involved the DRC government, rebel groups, multiple African nations, including Rwanda, Uganda, Angola, Zimbabwe, and Namibia. Conflict stemmed from power struggles after the fall of Mobutu, ethnic tensions, control over vast mineral resources, still the same thing that they're talking about in this book.
Yeah, so this is a really timely novel.
Yeah.
Because there's no way, I mean, she wrote this book.
Probably over the course of several years, right?
Yeah.
International impact, millions of civilians were displaced, widespread human rights abuses occurred. The war would ultimately become the deadliest conflict since World War II, with millions of deaths, mostly from disease and famine. And Laurent Désiré Kabila, who had overthrown Mobutu in 97, was in power. Former allies, notably Rwanda and Uganda, turned against him in 98, triggering the conflict. And Congo's immense mineral wealth, cobalt, coltan, and diamonds, played a central role in the fighting.
all wars are resource wars, right?
Yep. Also,
I think essentially true.
And there's also every war is fought in the name of God, right? But
yeah. Well, yeah, I think that is a front for resource wars, though. I'll also say I know almost nothing about that entire conflict, which I think is a result of an American education.
Yep. I bet British kids know more about it.
Probably, yeah. Probably.
I also think it was remarkable to me, and I'm sure it's true, I did not fact check it, but toward the end of the book where they're talking about like neighboring countries, they're like, well, that's the 5th largest exporter of diamonds in the world. They don't even have a diamond mine. There's just like so much like in this one place that just like spreads out and then gets exported. That's just crazy. The other thing I want to say before we start is in March of 2019, clearly nothing happened with this. A production company launched by actress Amy Adams and her manager Stacey O'Neill called Bond Group Entertainment secured a first look deal with HBO to develop a TV adaptation of this novel. Adams and O'Neill were executive producers of the series, while Anya Epstein and Kingsolver were writing the screenplay. But I don't think that
I actually hate it when things like this get adapted into movies, because I really dislike the process of going like, well, now she's 10. Now she's 15.
Yeah.
Now and we have different actors for all of them. It's like, I'm okay with it. Maybe it would be a good animated series and you could get people to do the voices, but I find the, like different actors for different ages stuff to be off-putting. There's something that I just don't like about it.
I think you could probably cast like a 15-year-old, like for somebody who plays like 10 to 18 or whatever, right? Just like age her down a little bit, age her up a little bit. But overall, before we go into adapting or whatever, which didn't happen, what do you think of the Poisonwood Bible?
I liked it. I thought it's very much a book for adults that is of its time. I feel like a lot of really serious literature was getting written like this in the 90s and the 80s, where it was these sprawling books about international ideas, and they were political, but also personal, but also multi-generational, or at least, spanned many decades. And I don't know that books like that get written so much anymore, or at least if they do, they're not the kind of popular that they were.
Well, it feels, I don't know how I want to say what I want to say.
Yeah.
But it feels, I think to your point about not being written anymore or whatever, it feels like this is like a book that like, just like moms in the 90s read or whatever before it became Danielle Steele, or I don't know. It feels maybe not.
I don't know. I think, I've never read a Danielle Steele book, but I think that's
my mom loves them.
Significantly lighter fare.
No, it is. And I'm trying to think like, because this is not difficult to read. It's long.
Yeah.
And it's complex a little bit, and it's about a heavy topic, and it is not formidable, but it's not like overly approachable. But I feel like
it's loved by the academic world in a way that something like Danielle Steele would never be.
Because you had said to me the way you would describe this was that Kingsolver does the work. Like she spent the time, and like she is not just like writing a book a year or whatever. She's like putting herself into this.
I think she's a very talented and dedicated writer, and like there are some interesting biographical things about Barbara Kingsolver, which is like, number one, yeah, she did.
We looked that up, right?
She I think is from Georgia, so not Mississippi, but moved to the Congo with her parents when she was a kid and lived there briefly. She didn't live there as long as the Price family lives there, but she lived there briefly. But the interesting thing to me about Barbara Kingsolver is that she has a lot of degrees and a PhD, I think, but it's all in like biology and stuff like that.
Like that's not really in this book.
Yeah, none of it is her writing about. None of it is like she has her PhD in comparative literature or anything like that. It's like she's in the hard sciences.
Yeah,
which I think sometimes translates to interesting writing, because I think that when people have those kinds of PhDs, actually you get this a lot on the internet. Is STEM people going like, I can do humanities, but humanities people could never do what I do, right? And I don't think that's accurate at all. But I do think that there is a certain kind of writing that comes from STEM people, and it tends to be very, if they are good writers, which is rare, it tends to be very sort of meticulous and ordered and easy to read.
Well, I think it's the equivalent I'm thinking is like comedy actors can do drama, but drama actors can't always do comedy. Like it doesn't always translate. Sometimes it does, but like usually a comedic actor can get serious, but a dramatic actor trying to be funny is like, ooh.
Or you have like Will Arnett who can't do either.
Boom.
Take that, Will Arnett.
Wow.
That movie sucks.
Oh yeah, I'm never gonna see that.
Yeah, good.
I'm never gonna see that movie.
All right. We were talking about, is this thing on?
Yeah, this episode comes out in 2 weeks, so this is like a relatively timely episode. Yeah. Get dunked on, Will Arnett. Ooh.
He's such a, I mean, he's got 2 things under his belt that put him in a kind of Hall of Fame.
The Smartless podcast.
No. You got me.
There is
no. I mean, Arrested Development and BoJack are both great shows.
There was a show on Fox or NBC, I think, called Running Wild. There was him and Kerry Russell. That was a year. And I was like, I like the show. And then it got canceled. I was like, oh, sad. But then she went on immediately to do The Americans and he went on to do BoJack. I was just like, if this show was a hit, we might not have either of those shows.
Yeah.
So like Running Wild died so that BoJack and
he's also had
Americans
about
could live.
8 different sitcoms that have failed.
Yeah. But, you know, so Arrested Development and BoJack, are those the 2 things, Hall of Fame? Yeah.
All right.
What? No, I was going to say something about comedy drama. Oh, I think that like if you are like Barbara Kingsolver in this case, clearly very intelligent, is able to like know. I think there's something, and maybe this is me just trying to defend the journalism degree that I don't actually use, but I think there's like a certain mindset where it's like there's like you're good with like facts or like telling a story, like a complicated interweaving thing. And that's maybe more STEM than humanities. And if you are, like you're saying, a good writer, you could take this different kind of like approach to something and then adapt it to a thing.
Yeah. And I think actually, I mean, I think people can disagree with me about this if they want, because this is something that is purely opinion. It doesn't seem to me like she's overly concerned with the poetry or with style. She's concerned with expository writing that gets the facts on the page.
Well, because so far as like for the first like 150 pages, like we both had this discussion early on where like they kind of all sound the same.
I thought that, and you thought that. Meg did not think that at all.
By the end, they are all very distinct. But for a while, for the first like couple passes through, I'm just like, is this all just like lady writing? And like, because they're 4 young girls at the start, and maybe that's the thing. And then when they switch, I think maybe it's when they pivot to Orleana, like when she writes the mother's point of view for the first time, it's like, oh, this is a different thing. Then maybe the things. But I do think it's like not until they grow up are they really different. And when Rachel is like a real bozo and like using the wrong words in there, and Ada's always very different because of the way that she thinks, the way that she like the palindromes and whatever. And Ruth May, when she has chapters, is the most childlike. But for a certain
she's a baby
period book, they're all samey. Because like her being 5 at the start and the twins being like 14, like they kind of read the same to me. But also, you said Egg didn't feel that way.
No, she's also read it more times. I think she read it twice. This is her second time reading it. So it's always, you always take something extra from it the second time that you read it. Yeah, I feel like there weren't many moments when I was caught up in the poetry of what was happening.
No.
I was very concerned with like the orderly events of things happening, and there weren't any moments where even when Ruth gets bit by the snake and the aftermath of that, which is, I guess, arguably the climax of the book, and it's certainly the emotional climax of the book.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about, with this overtext with Egg, yes.
Like even that stuff, I didn't like feel it.
No, and I think and maybe this is the fact that she's not a traditional writer, but like.
What do you mean traditional writer? You mean because she comes from STEM?
Yes, that's just all I mean. Like in terms of like more focus, like what you're saying in terms of what she is focusing on, and she's talking about like construction and whatever.
Yeah.
It feels to me that in a quote unquote more traditional story, Ruth May dying is like the thing that like, and it does for irrevocably change things.
Yeah.
But there's also like 200 pages after that.
That's the most interesting, like that is the most interesting part of the book.
Because I was thinking, and again, I bring this up every time we talk about like a big event, but like I think about The Shot, right? Yeah. And that happens at the very, very, like there's like, I don't know, there's like maybe 10 pages left in the book and you're like, oh my God. Like, like the whole book was getting here. And to a certain extent, the whole book was getting them to one of their, like suffering a tragedy. But it's also like at some point, something's going to break bad and this family's going to be like, we can't live here anymore. Yeah. And I think the interesting thing about it is that there is so much of their story that she chooses to write about after that happens, like decades of time passes. Yeah,
because I think you have to understand the long-term aftershocks of that, of also being in some ways I don't want to say stranded because it's not like they can't go back to America, but of being that kind of expat that ends up like the experience of your life is shaped by your time outside of America, and you end up like what happens to each of them after that?
Well, like, so the mom takes Ada back, and
Right.
Ada trains herself to walk and talk normally somehow. She goes to medical school. Rachel just marries like 3 or 4 different men and eventually inherits that hotel and runs that hotel. And then Leah marries and stays in Africa and just kind of does that work down there.
And is with what's his name, right? Isn't the guy that
Yeah, the translator.
yeah.
Yeah. I was just surprised by how much, because I was like, oh, this feels like, not that it was foreshadowed that one of them was going to die, but like at some point it's like the dad brings them there. None of them really want to be there. It's a story about this family. Like something's got to happen. Like it's not just going to be like a happy story. Like, because books like this typically don't end happy, although this does kind of have a happy ending.
Well, it shows that you survived. That the human condition is to keep going.
But it's just surprising to me again how much of the story there is still left to tell. That it's not like this is about their time in Africa. This is about their time in Africa and how the time in Africa has changed them.
Yeah.
So,
This is like my my cousins are like this, which is that they're the sons of a diplomat and lived in Nigeria for a long time, and then moved to Taipei, I think, and then now like one of them still lives in Beijing, and then the other ones live in America. But they grew up internationally, like in exactly that way. Like they were little kids, like going to school in Nigeria, and just essentially growing up with that culture. So much to the point that when I was one time I was at the park with them when I was a little kid, they were at home visiting my grandparents, and there was just a black guy in the park, and like one of the cousins like ran up to his mom and was tugging on her arm and goes, Mom, look, it's a Nigerian. Like he just thought that like
all black people were Nigerian.
He thought that like, that was like everyone that was black was Nigerian.
I mean,
so that's fun.
I think there is a version of that, like where toward the end, when they go to different countries and different markets or whatever, they can recognize like, oh, not only are you from my country, but like you're from my town or like my region. So like there is, but also maybe not a kid who has that or whatever.
Yeah, a white kid that's like a diplomat's son that is growing up in
And I mean, it feels kind of like Rachel.
private international schools and things like that.
I guess the thing, like the context that I didn't really have, which I know that when you, especially if you're like a 15-year-old girl or an 18-year-old girl or whatever, you don't have the ability to just be like, I'm moving back to America.
Yeah, right.
But it feels like to a certain extent, Rachel and Leah just accept like, this is a way out. And it doesn't matter what the way out is. It's just like, this is a way out.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take that and I'm going to move on with my life and go to the next thing.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if that is, not if it's believable, but it feels like such a big swing to take when it's like, there is a version of the world where you could get back to Mississippi and then just at least be back there and do a life. But I don't know. Does that make sense? Like where they just, she's like, I'm just gonna marry this guy because like he's there and he wants to marry me.
Yeah.
And like it's gonna be a better life. It's like, well, it's just not a life that you're living in this house where you don't have any creature comforts and your sister just died and whatever.
Yeah. Were you previously at all familiar with Patrice Lumumba or Mobutu or any of that stuff?
I think I knew the name.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you anything about him.
Right.
But I feel like to somebody who has a better education than me, he's notable.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that much about them either, but I know Patrice Lumumba. They go into like a lot of detail about his background and his like humble origins. He's I think he's a post office guy, a mailman, and he sort of brings this idea of collective action and Marxism to the people, and then is eventually overthrown.
Well, not even eventually, just like after like 50 days or whatever, right?
Is it that short?
I think, or maybe like they decide after 50 days, like he's not working out.
Yeah.
Like he just started.
Right. And then Mobutu takes over and then reigns for quite a long time.
Right. One thing that I was wondering, and we never get, is I was wondering if we are going to get ever from the perspective of the dad. And I like that we don't.
Yeah, me too. I like that too. Because I think also like a lot of the novel has like patriarchy is kind of a ghost that's haunting the novel a little bit. And so not having his perspective is really interesting. It's a very feminine novel.
Like, I wondered if we would get like one chapter, like maybe like, you know, his final days or whatever, and talking about, and the more I thought about that as I was reading, I was like, it would almost read like caricature, where it's like clearly he's not in his right mind, or at least not like giving a shit at all about his family.
Yeah.
And so it would be just text of like, this is what's best for them. They don't get it. They will one day. And it's like, that's not really interesting.
Yeah.
But I like that he is such a presence, that he is literally the reason that they're there, and we never give him the agency or power.
My favorite chapter in the book is the one in the church where they're like sort of dunking on him.
Yeah.
Because they're like, they want to like bring the vote. What are they? They're voting on like.
Is that the vote of if Leah can hunt with them or no?
No. It's like they're voting on Jesus.
Oh, yes.
And like he's just like, well, we don't vote. It's church. We don't put politics and church together. And they're like, but you said democracy was good. And God is good. Why can we not this should all be
and
together?
Then he loses the vote.
Yeah, and he's like he's kind of like a petulant brat about it too, which I think is the way that you know, because they are colonizing this culture essentially, and they're I think like he's used to getting his way, right? And he's used to like even though he's presenting it as like, I'm doing this all for you guys and blah, blah, blah. I think there's this idea that he's like, he is better than they are.
Yeah.
And he can like show them the light in the future.
Because he hears God or whatever.
And they're just like, they use this moment to just like sort of, I don't know. It feels like they're dunking on him in a way that's really fun to me. But yeah, then there's also the vote about that's also a really good chapter. That's like, those are right in the same area of the text.
When like things are starting to not go his way. Like, I guess when the girls grow up and be like, hey, like I belong here and I want to do my thing or whatever. Even though he is a monster and he clearly like should not be doing what he's doing. And I think there's a lot about like outsiders thinking they know best. And obviously like that is not necessarily the case, but I do kind of have to give him credit for like, he sticks up to the very end, just like trying to baptize somebody, just like, please give me a baby to baptize somewhere.
But that's also like in the beginning, it's so biblical, like symbolically, where he's like, I want to baptize them in this river, and they're just like, that river is fucking filled with crocodiles. You cannot baptize anybody in fucking Crocodile River.
Yep.
So yeah, that's funny.
There is a big element of the book that is the number one thing that we talk about on this podcast, and even though she comes from STEM, language is like what this book is about.
Sure. Yeah.
And about the different intonations and different inflections and how one word can have two or three like very different meanings depending on the context and the markings and how you speak it and whatever. So much so,
I mean, it's the title of the book is
the text,
is that,
which is alluded to and finally like explained like with like 10 pages left, where Ada's just like, well, he meant like Jesus is all powerful, but it actually meant like the Poisonwood Bible or whatever.
I think it's Jesus is precious or something.
Jesus is precious, the most precious thing, right? But I also thought there was interesting things about at the very beginning, like language kicks off. Like my first note is about these white people going to Africa and being like, they speak so weird here, but then they are also mocked by other people who speak English, be like, you have such a weird accent. Like, what are you saying? They're like, we don't speak weird. It just reminds me of the Louis C.K. joke where it's about a white guy going to Africa and be like, look at all these minorities around. It's just like, no, you are out of your element here.
Yeah, I read a book about this. I didn't read a book about this. This isn't a textbook that I was using to teach one time, because when I teach American realism, there are sections on regionalism, and regionalism leans so hard on dialect. And there's such, I think, in especially the Northeast, if you're not like a North Jersey Italian or like from Brooklyn or something like that, you think that your accent is the generic worldwide accent. And that's what my students think too, because they're, 14-year-old kids, and they just think, well, everyone speaks like me. They speak like me on TV. And it's like, well, not exactly, but, and the textbook explained it as like, there's no plain ice cream, right? Just the same way that there's no plain dialect.
But also people would be like, no, vanilla is plain.
That is exactly how my students reacted to that. Every one of them was like, vanilla's plain ice cream. What are you talking about? We're vanilla. We are the plain version of, but the point is that there's no plain ice cream. Like every ice cream has a flavor the same way that every dialect in the English language is just a different flavor of English.
Right.
I thought that my students' reaction to it is also very funny though.
Yeah. Cause they're dumb. They're kids.
But they also like I can point out things to them that are specific to their accent that then they're like, wait, what? When we say Satan, we drop the medial T. We just do a glottal stop in the middle.
Satan.
Yeah, we don't pronounce the T in Satan. We just say Satan.
Yeah.
Right. And we do that with a lot of medial T's. And nobody that blows their mind because they don't recognize that they're doing that until they
have it called out.
Yeah, until you have it called out. And they're just like, wait, but do I? No, I say the T. It's like you don't say the T. Mm-mm. If you were spelling it, it would be S-A''AN.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you were writing that as like the new, but then if they read that, would be like, they would just be like, what the hell is this?
It's like how you sound, you dumb kid. I also think that there is a big language thing in terms of, for lack of a better description, like the history of the Bible, and be like, you think that like there's just like one version of the Bible? It's like, where it's like, fitting a camel through the eye of a needle. It's like, well, it wasn't always camel, it was something else, but like it just became camel because like that was more convenient. Like the intentional decisions to like change things to serve the current, serve the current ruler or population or needs of the world. And then also just like the typos that are just, there are errata, like again, Poisonwood Bible, like there's these, apocryphal Bibles or whatever.
Right. But then, if you don't speak ancient Greek or Aramaic or Hebrew or whatever, like it's very difficult to know when you're getting fooled by things like that. You
kind of have to that's all books that we read in translation too. Like you just have to assume that
the translator's not fucking up.
Right.
Which is when we maybe one day read the Odyssey, we'll have a conversation about what translation we're going to read. Because the translation that I've read the Fitzgerald translation, which is the one that I teach, but the one that I read the Emily Wilson version much more frequently. And
it makes bros mad.
Yeah, and I loved the Emily Wilson version.
Do it.
And people on the internet get so mad about that, but they have no idea what they're fucking talking about because they don't speak Greek.
It's all Greek to me.
Like they have no idea, but they're so mad. And anyway, but I really like that translation because I think it's cool. Like I think the language that she uses is great.
Yeah. It's very sad to me in the book that the original stress of Ruth May getting sick, like just imagining like Orleana, like when we get Orleana's perspective, she kicks off each like basically new book of the Bible, which is every new book of the book.
Right.
And, or at least for a while, she kicks those off, and she just seems so tired. Like she doesn't want to be there. Just like it's like mom shit, but also like
it's like my fucking. It's like whenever like moms are like, they're just like, my fucking husband got a job in Iowa, and I had to follow his ass to Iowa and leave all my friends behind, and now I'm just a woman in Iowa who doesn't have any friends here in fucking Iowa.
And also I'm in Iowa.
Yeah, there are so many stories that are like that.
I'm just gonna take a look. What state? What playing card is Iowa? Just in case we get that as the next state. Ace of Diamonds. Good, nice card.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah, so she just seems tired. She does not want to be there. She has to deal with this shitty husband that she just sort of is like, he was kind of sold her a bill of goods when they met, and then she thought he was one kind of way, and then he turned out to be a different kind of way. And
typical man.
They have 4 kids, and so not only does she have to like provide for the whole family and make sure that they stay alive and be, do wifely duties or whatever, but blah, blah, blah. And she just seems so tired. And so to think about like your youngest daughter, your literal baby, almost like 5 years old, getting sick because you realize she's not been taking her malaria pills for 61 weeks. Which also, I'm like, where's 61 weeks? Like, it does not feel like the time captured. It's just like, oh, it's a weekly pill. There's 61 pills. It's like, wait, how long have we been here? But then as she's finally getting better from that, she gets bit by a snake and dies. It's just like, that is such a fucking bummer of a holy shit.
Yeah. What is I guess, why was she not taking the malaria pill? I don't
Tasted
remember.
bad. Tasted yucky.
Yeah. Okay. Which is something that a kid would do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just like licks it, sticks it to the wall, done. But then like the mom having to like turn her malaria nets into a shroud, into like a funereal shroud. It's just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Bummer. But
yeah,
there is a section in here. similar to when we read the Atlas a couple books ago. Not nearly as visceral, and I think this goes to the point of like I didn't like feel much about this. But remember, in the Atlas there was the mosquito section. Like,
Of course,
holy shit! Here, there's a thing that's like basically the same thing with ants. I'm just like I don't feel it. Like it didn't do for me what Volma did for me with mosquitoes.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think there are ways in which I think Barbara Kingsolver is a better writer than William Volman, and I think that because I think she's a much more disciplined writer than he is.
Yes.
Yeah, I think she is like she's never swinging for the fences, but she's getting singles and doubles like
well, I think
pretty
it's like,
consistently.
it's like a constant B+ as opposed to like sometimes an A and sometimes like a D. It's just like, what are you gonna get?
Yeah, exactly. So she's never gonna hit the highs of. She might not be a Hall of Famer, but she's a compiler.
But to me, like that section of the ants, like literally running the entire town, like the entire town of people out of the town because they are here to like eat every chicken.
Yeah, which is close to my heart because of Phase 4, baby.
Yeah, which Margaret really wants to see. We're gonna watch this year theoretically.
All-time favorite.
Oh yeah, in your top 4 when we have your film festival,
That's right.
The Shreds Film Fest. I was like, this feels like this should be terrifying that you are running from your home because of like carnivorous ants, and I was just like, I don't feel it. Maybe made worse because the mosquito stuff was so disgusting and visceral, but I was just like, I want this to be scarier, but it wasn't. Other thoughts?
Well, I think Meg's email is probably pretty long because I know she's a devotee.
I still have some more notes. I was just gonna.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, keep going then. I read this book so long ago because we just have had a series of
unfortunate events,
difficulties.
Lemony Snicket. The ring of fire that they burn, they build and light to trap animals inside because they're like, we need to fucking eat.
It reminded me very much of living in California because I lived in the valley in California, and so there would be fires
because you shot porn.
Yeah, yeah, edited porn.
Safe for airplanes.
Yeah, I made the pornography safe for the airplanes. It just looks like she's sucking a black bar. I don't know what.
You edited Eyes Wide Shut to the theatrical version.
Yeah,
you CGI'd the bodies in front of the bodies. Anyway,
but there would
fires in the valleys.
There would be fires in the hills, and the coyotes would come down. They'd run out, and then you'd have coyotes in the streets because they're A, getting away from fire, and B, looking for food because all the food is back up in the fiery. So they'd be like digging through garbage cans and stuff, and so you'd be walking to work, and there'd just be like coyotes in the street.
Crazy.
And so this reminded me of that, them setting fire so that they can like round up the animals and then.
But like it seems like this is a thing that they've done a lot because they know exactly like what to do and where to stand with like bows and arrows to make sure that like when the animals come out on fire running for their lives, like, well, arrow to the jugular is going to take them down.
And which daughter is the daughter that gets included?
Leah. Yeah.
She's the one.
She's kind of like, I don't know if there's a main character because I think they're all kind of equal, but it feels like she is the one that kind of becomes the main character. Like she is the one that sort of embodies, like she's like the one who wants to be in Africa.
Yeah.
The mom and Ada, well, mom's like, I need to get out of here. She takes Ada, who never really feels like she has that much agency, maybe because of the disability, until she again wishes it away.
Overcomes that disability.
And it feels like Rachel is just like, I just need a rich man to like.
Yeah.
But Leah's like, no, I'm here. I'm good at this stuff. Let me do the thing. Symbolic that it rains, perhaps when Ruth dies for the first time. It like in maybe the entire book, it rains. And they also very sad that they realize like, oh, dad doesn't know anything about any of us.
Yeah, it's dads.
And it's like the damn.
Dads don't know how to talk to daughters because dads can't relate to girls.
Yeah.
I think there's a chasm. I mean, that's certainly not true of everyone. I have a lot of friends who have daughters who are great dads to those daughters, but like
the Honorable Judge Matter. Like,
I have a lot of friends that have, our boy Rollins, et cetera, et cetera. There are people, we have a lot of great friends that are fathers to daughters, but I think traditionally the gap between men and their female children is just that the men can't relate to them.
Yep.
And they, instead of taking on a role of, I don't know, connectivity, they take on the role of protector, which is certainly part of that, but
can't be the only thing.
Yeah.
But it does feel that death separates them even further from the dad. We then smash cut into the mom's perspective and just like her coming to terms. And also, I think there's something very interesting both in terms of Africa, in terms of the family, in terms of the death. There's an interesting thing that she does here, Kingsolver does here, of the idea of knowing that something has happened before you like consciously know it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when Ruth May dies and the girls are out in the living room, they're like, we have to tell mom. And she's in the bedroom.
That's a hard, yeah.
And she's in the bedroom and she thinks that she has 4 daughters, but she doesn't have 4 daughters anymore.
Yeah.
And it's like that.
Yeah.
That Schrodinger's cat kind of like existing where you're not existing in reality anymore. Or like the reality you think exists is like insane.
Okay, so I'm going to take back what I said about her as being a non-emotional writer, because that scene actually does hit really hard. The moment when she's looking at her mom and she's like, this is the last moment that she'll ever believe that she has 4 daughters. That's a hard moment. Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot at play about like the need for change or changes happening or whatever, where it's like believing that the world is a different way than it actually is, or just not knowing that the world is different than it actually is, either because of like lack of education or just lack of being told, or just being asleep and not knowing that your daughter just died from a snake bite. Like, crazy. But yeah, so the Ruth dies, realize the dad doesn't know them, and then everybody's just like, we got to do something. So Rachel marries Axel Root, who turns out to be an asshole. Leah goes with Anatole, eventually gets married to him, and Orleana takes Ada away.
And Anatole was one of the guys that was fighting really hard for her to be one of the people that can fire that can use the bow and arrow.
Yes.
So he's always been sort of an advocate for her within the community.
Right. And they stayed together, even like when he goes to prison for,
being subversive.
Yep.
And he was also, what was he? He was a teacher, right? In their community. I think he was
was he the translator, or was he the one who was like working in there? He might have been a teacher, because she started teaching too. So maybe that sort of tracks. But I do think that also that pivots, not only does that like spark them into what they need to do to escape the situation, but I think it also, in terms of the writing, makes them all more of who they are. Like Rachel becomes more vapid. Like there's also something about, there's the perspective of like, we see from Leah about in Africa, if you want to send a letter, you basically have to bribe people to mail the letter because they don't have enough money. They're trying to pay for their family to survive.
Right.
But Rachel's just like, fucking mailman here is so lazy. Like, I don't get my mail. And it's like the same way of looking at a thing, but not understanding. Or the Muhammad Ali thing, which I mentioned before, where Leah and Anatole are just like, this is so fucking corrupt. Like, I can't believe this. And Rachel's like, oh my God, we finally get American fighters here. Like, that's so cool.
But this is, it's interesting how that has replicated itself over and over again in history, because we know for a fact that every time the Olympics goes somewhere, it actually ends up being pretty bad for that place, right? Like it seems like it's this nice, good thing, but then it like fucks a lot of people over. Businesses have to close. People get like their homes demolished and they get run out of, especially the more like, the more economic hardship that there is in a country, the more that something like the Olympics is going to cause extreme gentrification and like ruin the entire ecosystem.
Well, it's like, why would this country spend $100 million on a stadium that they don't need, other than to win the favor of like FIFA?
And will never get used again. Those stadiums just get abandoned entirely. Right.
So,
the Olympics should just be like, it should be in Greece
every year,
and they should just have it be in Greece, and that's it.
A place like LA, where it's just like, we have the infrastructure. Yeah. Although that's going to be a nightmare traffic.
It's going to be awful.
My sister wants to go. We might wind up going. You can now.
I'll go. You want to go?
Yeah. I mean, 2.5 years out, you can, the registration to request tickets is open now.
Oh, fuck.
So
yeah, maybe I won't go. I don't know.
Or like the registration to buy tickets.
I'm gonna go this summer. Did I tell you that? I'm gonna go on a road trip this summer, and
bring the dog. Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Ada focuses on her studies and applies herself, and Orleana breaks free of it all, finally does what she wants to do. I also just like that she's like, I'm going to fucking plant flowers. I'm just really good at this, and I want to do this. And I wasn't allowed to have it. I don't know if she ever explicitly says that, but just like, you don't want it, I'm going to do it. Which is cool.
Yeah.
Leah writes about the history of Africa and how they're eternally wronged by America. And then finally, with 10 pages to go, Ada offers up the titular Poisonwood Bible, even though it's been talked about throughout the entire text. So
I have a friend that went and studied in South Africa, and she was dating this guy from South Africa, and like they dated for a long time, for many years. and she's an American progressive, etc. And she would often do that, like talk specifically about America's role in or like if not America's role, then the role of white colonists and blah 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 blah. All things that like I'm on board with and agree with, but he would just sometimes be like, you are robbing Africans of their agency by acting like they don't have a hand in anything that they do ever. And yeah, these things have been difficult for us through the colonial perspective, but like also some problems are created internally, and we have our own problems with corruption and things like that.
Yeah.
And you cannot pass everything off to another group of people, because that's actually ends up being patronizing and condescending, and feels as though we're not allowing Africans any say in their own destiny.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, this whole book is just like America and Belgium were just like, we should bring them democracy. It's like, no,
yeah,
don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, you end up with,
but also under the guise of like, well, there's diamonds there, or there's like cheap labor, or however they wanted to look at it in terms of like what they could make. It's like, no, we're going to bring democracy and religion.
Yeah, all colonialism is meant to be an exchange of those kinds of things, but it ends up being a grift, because you don't get anything material for religion. But they get material out of minerals and stuff like that. So it's a grift.
And also democracy. It's like, well, the way that they were doing it was working for thousands of years. Like,
yeah. Do you know about the Sentinelese? Do you know them?
No.
So the Sentinelese are a group of people on an island in like off the coast of India, and they are a completely isolated tribe of people. India has granted them special privileges in that nobody is allowed to go to that island. And when people do try to go to that island, the natives just fucking kill them. And India's like, that's what you get. And like this guy.
What goes on there?
It's not, we don't really know, because people don't go there.
Wow.
Because they're an isolated tribe. But also, if someone did go there, there's a chance that they would all die, because they don't have the same immune system as everyone else. Like if you or I went there, we might just give them some fucking super
like how
disease.
smallpox wiped out so many indigenous people.
Yeah. But there's like this guy that went there. He like kept trying to go there. He was a Christian missionary. He kept trying to go there. Like he would pay Indian fishermen to like illegally ferry him over. And he tried a bunch of times, and he kept getting turned away. And then eventually they just killed him. And it's like those, they know what they're doing. They seem okay, right? They don't want you to be there. They're not aware of a larger world, really. They're like one of the few, you read about the tribes that have they've never stepped foot out of their, and like this is the I think they're the North Sentinelese, because it's North Sentinel Island. I don't know what they call themselves, but like it's really fascinating, because they're just like, yeah, I don't know, if you come near our beach, we'll kill you. And the Indian government is just like, sounds fair. Like, don't go near that beach. And so Indian government also, they send boats patrolling around to make sure that people don't bother them.
That's cool.
It is. Yeah. It's like if we did that more often, it would probably be nice, actually.
Why is India like so cool about it?
I don't know. There's probably reasons. I haven't looked. I like saw an article. I don't know if it was in National Geographic or it may have been Time magazine, or it was one of those like glossy magazines. So I haven't like looked that much into it, but like I read it, and it was really fascinating.
Well, I think that's also a little bit like the John Boyce like 17776, where just like some things just don't go there.
Yeah.
Like, there's that cave, don't go to that cave.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about the cave. The caves exist, just don't go there.
Don't go to the cave.
Don't go to the cave. All right.
Leave these people alone.
We have an email address, lottery@cageclub.me. We got an email today from the Egg. Meg's reaction to the Poisonwood Bible.
Is this a super long email?
Not that long.
All right.
This is the second time I have read this book, and it was even better the second time. I felt like because I am smarter than I was in undergrad, shots fired at her younger self.
No, I think I feel that all the time. So I am so much smarter than I was when I was like 21, 22. That
I've heard that about like writing, like when like every time you read something you wrote a while ago, you're always so embarrassed by it. Yeah. But it's like if you weren't, there's a red flag. Like that means you're not growing, and you're not getting better or smarter or more refined or changing your tastes or whatever.
Right, yeah.
This go around, Meg writes, I read it as an ebook, but I still have my original copy from college with all my notes in it. I'm glad that I read it this way because I wasn't distracted by my old notes. I found the role of guilt to be interesting. Characters can feel guilty but not bear actual guilt, as in the case of Leah, or not feel any guilt, any emphasized, even though they are certainly guilty, as in the case of Rachel. I actually made this little table while writing this email, which she did not paste in, but she sent this thing. Feels, does not feel. Oleana feels is. Leah feels is not. Rachel and Nathan feel, does not feel is. Ruth and Ada does not feel is not.
Okay.
Do you know how to read that table or no?
No. I'm not good at stuff like that.
Is and does not feel and does not feel. Like I understand the feels and does not feel, right? Like Oleana and Leah are like the heart of the thing, that they are the emotions.
It's probably is guilty.
Oh, probably.
Is guilty, does not feel guilt.
Right. Okay. So is
not guilty, feels guilt.
Oleana and Leah in particular carry some of the same feelings of guilt, specifically in the case of Ruth May. But Leah, since Leah was a child when her life in Africa started, she gets a pass, but I find Oleana to be more complicit. I don't know if I agree with that. Guilt is also used as a means of control within the novel. As I have stated with my little table, Nathan does not seem to carry any feelings of guilt pre-Ruth May, but he attempts to make his daughters feel guilty to control them. Prime example of this.
That's the way of the Christian religion.
Mm-hmm. Prime example is with Methuselah, the bird, and his swearing. Upon hearing Methuselah say the word damn, Nathan says, quote, that poor African bird can't be relieved of what you've taught it. It's an innocent creature that can only repeat what it hears.
Yeah, that's funny.
Leah interprets this as, quote, the irreversible spoiling of Methuselah's innocence. But this is not how sinning works. To sin knows that you know that you're doing bad. It's not possible for an animal to sin because we cannot apply our own morality to them.
Also, animals don't have souls.
Wow.
I mean, that's very...
All dogs go to heaven, though.
Yeah, but I feel like that's pretty specific doctrine that animals don't have souls.
Actually, though, through writing this email, I've changed my mind about Nathan feeling guilty, but I'm not rewriting anything because this kind of feels more fun. His entire motivation throughout the events, even before the novel takes place, has been guilt. He feels guilty stemming from him being the one who survived the war, mirroring Leah's guilt that she is the twin who was healthy. His guilt presents differently than the other characters in the novel because his guilt is projected outwards to the women in his family, and the women's guilt is taken inward.
Okay. Again, I think that's a gender dynamic that is explored in a lot of fiction. The idea of men expressing outwardly, and their like anger and rage and guilt and all their emotions get expressed outwardly, while women's gets expressed inwardly.
Although Nathan is a terrible father/husband/person, I found him to be an interesting character. He presents himself as rigid upon his own beliefs, but he feels in a way, quote, makes an exception for himself by considering the Apocrypha as a part of his Bible, even though that's something that's not generally accepted in his faith. Yeah. He also named his daughters after only characters in the Old Testament, even though he, as a Christian, is big on Jesus. And then two of his daughters are named after women who were married to the same man at the same time, Rachel and Leah, beyond my level of expertise there. But he cannot accept that in the reality of Africa. And lastly, she writes, I want to note that I found it interesting that the only daughter of his who has a direct connection in a way to the New Testament, Ruth, his direct ancestor is Jesus, is the only one who did not survive.
Okay.
All in all,
Meg bringing the theology.
All in all, a great way to round out the 90s module, even though we have From Hell next in 2 weeks. But yeah, that was...
That's a thorough email with lots of stuff that I hadn't considered because
I really want to, like, I grew up in church, but like now that I don't have to, like, I think it's the same way. It's like, I don't want to read about history. It's like, well, now that I kind of want to go to museums and stuff, right?
You wanted me to do a Bible module.
I thought we could do a Bible module.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll, I mean,
I don't think it would work.
It would be hard. You would do like what? Each book would pair with another book.
I don't know. I was saying to Margaret, when we have kids one day, I want to read them like every Shakespeare thing. Cause I want to selfishly like know.
Yeah, that's a tough, I mean, yeah.
But she's like, maybe we can read like versions for kids. I was like, that's probably better. But like, I want to know the stories. You know what I mean? Cause it's always like.
So much of Shakespeare is disgusting.
I know. You talk about like, you know, his maidenhood or, you know, his unsheathing is whatever. Just like, well, good night.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I want to know the Bible. Like I want to know, basically I want to know like Jeopardy facts.
Uh-huh.
But like I don't want to memorize state capitals, and I don't want to do whatever, this, that, the other thing.
Well, I mean, if you want a real background in English literature, starting with medieval literature, so or even like, you know, the stuff Old English, you're talking about Canterbury Tales and Beowulf and things like that. You really should know the Bible, and
right?
And you should like.
Well, my boss says, because we talk a lot, or he thinks a lot, and we talk sometimes, and by we talk, I mean he talks to me about the way that the world is changing and the way that like education is changing. And he is really kind of firmly of the mind, and like more and more every day, that the old like 1700s British education is really the only thing. Like if you know how to like
Trivium, quadrivium, man.
Think and reason and argue and like the classic literature and like, I'm like, that feels right.
Yeah, it does. And I try to explain, I try so hard to explain that to people, and they're just like, students are so like, well, why don't we just like learn how to do our taxes and learn about how to do this? And it's like, I guess there should be a civics class so that you learn your role within society and things like that. But like the classical pedagogy is developed over millennia in order to help you grow so that you can be a versatile adult that can exist in more than one realm. Mm-hmm. Like so many people end up being like, I'm a genius mechanic and I can't do fuck all else. It's like, I just have this one goddamn thing that I can do.
Which bless them for finding the thing they can do.
No, that's great. I'm not, anyone that finds like whatever one skill, but like we should, you know, the purpose of education should be to create smart people. And we have driven education because America, it's not just America, because this is a thing that happened with industrialization, but it's about like hoarding wealth and gaining resources rather than becoming smart. Like everything in education now is geared toward getting a job. It's not geared toward making you the smartest person that you can be. It's geared toward saying like, hey, here's a way that you can accumulate wealth really quickly and then own a home and do this and that and that. And you can't blame people because that's the culture that we live in, but it has alienated us from our own humanity and sold our soul out to like a
corporations.
Yeah. And just currency, just capital. It sold the capital. And that feels like a loss. And we're only maybe really starting to feel that loss now because we've entered a point where things are accelerating very quickly because of technology.
Yep.
So if we don't do what we can to claw back and regain our humanity, it's going to be bad, but you know, whatever.
If you're going to sell your soul, hold on. I got a side note. If you're going to sell your soul, sell the rock and roll. Today, I was talking to Joe about Fast Forever, dated March 17th, 2028 in theaters. Go see it. Final Fast film. Uh-huh. And we were talking about how that lap of Too Fast, Too Forever, we're going to do the Forever lap. And he was like, when we start, he said to me, we need to intro the lap with the song.
Yeah.
And I said, which song? And he put in a link to Liam Lynch, United States of Whatever.
Oh.
And I was like, you have no idea how many times Shreds brings this up. It's seriously on like 5 or 10 episodes.
Whatever.
And I'm like, whatever. But then he put in a couple other songs. But I don't know where it came from. I don't know why he said that. He and I have never talked about it, but I was just like, you have no idea.
The mythology of that song.
Whatever. And I was just, whatever. Anyway, keep reading the Bible.
All right. Today's crime is to quote a film that I watched recently, A Drive-By Fruiting.